Hi folks, I'm the one and only Florida Man, your friendly neighborhood diplomacy superhero. Today I'm bringing you an after-action report on a SuperPastis game I was actually in. This video is the French perspective. So, in the first game I participated in SuperPastis, I drew France. Naturally, as France, my first priority is reaching out to all three of my neighbors to make sure I have as few enemies as possible, and hopefully at least one ally. As France, I've noticed I usually don't get eliminated, and I wind up in the draw, but I don't tend to get to solo as often as with some other countries. And given that this game is set to stop in fall 1909, I'm aware that it's very doable for the other players to stop me from winning, even if I start to do well, by just throwing everything they have at me and waiting it out. What that means to me is I need to try to make progress as quickly as I can, ideally while disguising my strength. Spring 1901, I propose a Western triple to England, because I think that might accomplish the goals I just mentioned. If we destroy Russia, that's one power who can't oppose us if I approach the board top. Italy will also have fallen then, so I'll be across part of the stalemate line. And in a Western triple, England does get strong, but I think I can manage to be the first to stab. Just as importantly, I think that the German player is a more dangerous enemy than England, and the triple would keep him in check. In response to my message, England claims that they like Germany and they had proposed to Germany to attack me, but they're willing to do the triple instead. I also communicate with Germany, who apologizes for a delayed response and claims he was busy. I find that a little bit suspicious because I messaged early on in the game, and England claimed that they liked Germany in their message, which implies communication, given that this is an anonymous game, so he wouldn't have any way of knowing if he already knew the other player. And England had no reason to say that he liked Germany if it wasn't true, if he had not in fact communicated with Germany. Germany naturally proposes moving against England and then going east in our respective spheres. I respond by saying, we might consider pretending to go along with a Western triple to lower England's guard. In this case, this was my effort at causing a war between England and Germany. I think Germany recognized immediately that if we pretended to do a Western triple, and he didn't really want to do it, he'd either get pulled into actually doing it, or he'd end up having to fight England and possibly me. I'd get to choose who I wanted to side with, he'd be stuck with whatever alignment I chose. Germany cautioned me that he didn't want to really be in a Western triple, and he said that he thought we both found England likable, but we shouldn't let that stop us from attacking England, which is a very fair point. However, Germany nevertheless agreed to pretend to do a triple, and he therefore fell into my trap in 1901. Germany told me he messaged England and said he wanted to do a triple. I will say, if Germany hadn't agreed to do this, I probably would have started the game by genuinely working with him against England. I send a friendly message to Italy as well, at this point, in which I attempt to turn on my art of charm, so Italy will have less reason to attack me. As Italy, I do like attacking France early, if I can get an ally to do so. Italy responds with a proposal for an alliance between myself, him, and Germany, which he calls the Swiss Guard Alliance. I think it's a novel idea, and although I've never seen it in practice and I have no idea if it would work, the important thing is that if Italy considers us to be in an alliance, he's much less likely to attack me, so I agree to this. The spring orders process and my orders are, no doubt about it, overtly hostile to Germany. I move to Burgundy and Picardy with armies and move my fleet to the mid-Atlantic Ocean. This is the most anti-German, pro-English opening I could possibly make. However, the move to Burgundy doesn't seem as dangerous as it is, because near the last minute, Germany had proposed a DMZ there, and I responded by saying that the proposal was last minute, and I wasn't sure about it. And in his reply, he said he was fine with me moving to Burgundy. Interestingly, in the east, Italy made an opening that was friendly to me and Austria simultaneously, while Austria made a very, very bad call with his opening, moving against Italy and leaving his back completely open to Russia. Fortunately for Austria, Turkey doesn't seem to be working together with Russia against the Austrians, but I'm sure the Turk was regretting not having made a deal with Russia by the time orders were visible. After orders processed, Germany tried some fairly clever efforts at subtly manipulating me into taking his side against England. He said that England told him I was in an alliance with Italy, and Italy confirmed, which I think was an effort to imply that England was untrustworthy. Unfortunately for him, I never mentioned the idea of an alliance with Italy to England, because it wasn't an idea I took very seriously. Also, because Italy described it as an alliance between himself, Germany, and me, I expected that Italy might have mentioned the idea to Germany. So this did not have the effect Germany might have calculated it would have, although I think it was a very intelligent persuasion move. I just didn't believe there was actually a leak from England at this time. At the same time, England is not very happy with me here, actually, because I suggest that I might take Belgium this season. England seemed to think it would naturally become English, without having discussed that idea, based on the assumption that we were all sincerely doing the Western Triple, which I suppose is a fair point. The problem from my perspective was that, knowing that the Western Triple wasn't going to actually happen in real life, I opened so I could control who got Belgium, and that was in part because in an English-French alliance against Germany, France normally gets Belgium, and Munich. In fall 1901, England moves into the English Channel and Wales, which was obviously hostile to me, but was also the sort of move that couldn't cause me any harm unless I lowered my guard for some reason. I took Belgium while Germany took Holland, covered Munich, and neglected to bounce Russia and Sweden. This becomes an issue for Germany because England again still really thought the Western Triple was happening, and unlike my maneuvers, which were in a sort of gray area with regard to how the Triple plays out, Germany's failure to bounce Russia was definitely a breach of our agreed plan. In the fall build phase, Germany and I coordinated a plan to take England out. Germany suggested we should each build one fleet and one army, but I had entered a second fleet rather than an army, and I forgot to change that. I think Germany ended up being rather pleased by it because it made it apparent that I was committing to work with him rather than England, since the additional army would have given me the option of attacking him. England got a London fleet, which didn't really make any difference to me. Germany and Russia each built fleets which were obviously quite threatening to England and probably signaled that English days were numbered. In spring 1902, England essentially told me that he'd been informed in press that I was planning on going against him, and I said I had received the same information about him. England thought that Germany had insulted him in press apparently, so England decided to work with me. We agreed that he would support the Channel unit into North Sea, and after he did that, I would revisit whether he and I were at war or not. At the same time that England moved out of the Channel as promised, Russia attacked England and Germany attacked Russia, which was something Germany had suggested he might try to do at some point soon in previous messages with me, but I honestly didn't think he'd do it right then. I think doing that at this early point was a clear mistake, as later moves would show. The problem, of course, is that failing to do so might have supported creating an unfortunately strong Russia. In the south, Italy entered the Tyrrhenian Sea, which I expressed that I did not appreciate. In fall 1902, we all take advantage of Germany's divided attention. I try to attack Munich and successfully support England into Holland, while Russia vacates Norway to focus south against Germany. Germany pulls everything back for defense. Meanwhile, unfortunately for Russia, Austria and Turkey are attacking him in the south. Also in the south, I move into West Mediterranean, which was based on the move to Tyrrhenian Sea. At the same time, though, Italy vacates that space. You could say Italy and I had our wires crossed for a little bit there. In the build phase, England and I each build so as to forward our offensive against Germany. Russia destroys his northernmost fleet, which was pointed against England, so that's good for us. Turkey builds fleets, which is clearly anti-Italian, which could ultimately be good for me, since I can insinuate myself into the Mediterranean region, acting as Italy's friend and protector. In spring 1903, Germany and I make up, and we turn on England instantly and with devastating effect. England is put in position to lose Liverpool, and Germany retakes Holland with my support. At the same time, the Danish centre that England has just taken will probably be more difficult to hold over the medium term, and in the south, Russia is really getting pushed back, allowing the Austro-Turkish alliance to sweep north and begin pushing west. Italy moves against me based on the West Med move, but I quite consciously choose to just hold in place and speak reassuringly. This doesn't change even after I see he arrives in Piedmont. I know that if Italy occupies Marseille, I'll take it back pretty quickly anyway, so I'm not worried about him except in the sense that I'm worried he won't defend against Turkey because he's worried about me. In fall 1903, I move into Tyrrhenian Sea so I can help defend Italy. Italy doesn't attack me with the Piedmont unit, which signals to me that we are completely on the same page now. Turkey is unfortunately in the Ionian, a situation we'll have to work together to rectify. In the north, I land in Liverpool, while Germany retakes Denmark, crushing England down to 3 centres. Russia walks into Berlin while losing Warsaw and Moscow. The Austro-Turk alliance has become so effective at this point that it forms a strong motivation for Germany, Italy, and I to stick together tightly. In the build phase, I get a new southern fleet, while Austria acquires new armies. Then we have some rather inconclusive skirmishing, both between the English-Russian coalition and myself in Germany, and between the Austro-Turkish alliance in the south and Italy. In the fall of 1904, I allow Germany to take Belgium, which gives Germany a build to use against our common enemies in the east. I also convoy another army onto the English island, since the English player has been good about continuing to fight for his survival thus far. Unfortunately, Italy loses Venice. He gambled wrong, and he and I did not coordinate very well against the enemy. In the build, very little changes. Germany gets the army I mentioned, Turkey gets a new fleet. Then we proceed with spring 1905, the clear beginning of the end for England, if we hadn't seen that already, and one of the more important nails in the coffin for Italy, as his Naples army gets destroyed. Austria is in the center, throwing every single army he can spare up against Germany, except for the armies helping Italy or guarding against a possible Turkish stab. Russia continues to rather ineffectually prosecute his apparent grudge against Germany, which seems silly when he could be angling to retake his home center of St. Pete. In fall 1905, Turkey actually stabs Austria. At the time, I wasn't even sure it was real, but this changes the entire character of the remainder of the game drastically in my favor. I believe Germany was responsible for persuading Turkey that this was a good idea. Unfortunately for him, he was unlucky at the same time. Austria snuck into Berlin, and England got into Holland, keeping England alive despite my having captured all of the English home centers. In the build phase, I got a new fleet. Turkey built 3 armies, reflecting his focus on his new enemy, Austria. That's just great, and I'm very happy to see it. It confirms what had only been suspected from my side before. In spring 1906, I occupy Belgium and begin turning on Germany again. Austria and Turkey fight in the east and create a wonderful chaos, which allows me to continue holding my ground with the same single fleet I've been devoting to that front for the last couple of years. This also keeps Italy around. Russia supports Austria in St. Pete. I think Russia probably should have made sure he was the one occupying that space, since it was a home center for him, and taking it back would be impossible without his help, but there went Russia's last chance to make a small comeback. Fall 1906, I continue working against Germany by supporting England back into Holland. At the same time, I swing all but one of my fleets south to guarantee my possession of Tunis and my ability to hold Turkey off in the Mediterranean. In the build phase, I get a fleet, Austria gets her armies, and Turkey destroys his Sevastopol army, which is probably the clearest visual cue at this point that there may have been a rapprochement between Austria and Turkey. In spring 1906, Turkey therefore moves forcefully against me. Unfortunately for him, at the same time, Austria takes 2 dots off of Turkey. This leads me to ask Turkey if he had decided to throw the game to Austria. Turkey responded that he had not, but he considers me the greater threat. That's flattering, but it's also a problem. On the bright side, England and I are continuing to make inroads against Germany, who is in really rough shape now, having lost control of Kiel and ownership of Berlin and Holland, not to mention that his forces are now separated by our forces. However, in fall 1907, Germany persuades me he'll be more useful alive than England will, so I support him back into Kiel, finishing England off completely. Happily, I also take Tunis at this time, which makes it theoretically possible for me to solo without gaining more than the German and Scandinavian centers plus St. Pete. Unfortunately, at this point, it's looking like Austria and Turkey really have made up, which will stall any further forward progress in the south and could make it difficult to progress up north as well. In the build phase, I get an army and a fleet while Austria acquires yet another army, or, as I might think of them, units that will probably be directed at Germany and at arresting my progress. Very unfortunate. The game is looking like it's about to reach a stalemate. In order to forestall that, in spring 1908 I message Austria and Turkey, insinuating to each of them that the other has revealed a plan to stab by the endgame to improve their score in the tournament. The fact that they've just been fighting each other leads me to believe this might be an effective tactic, and to be honest, I don't have much left as far as ideas and options go. When the orders process, I see Austria moved into Warsaw. I can't initially tell if this single one center dot grab is actually a real stab, but Turkish communications confirm that that is what's going on, and with the fall moves, Turkey begins trying to throw centers to me to ensure that Austria will not finish in second place at his expense. Beautiful. Turkey is essentially trying to throw the solo to me here, which is more or less the result I was hoping and trying to achieve, but did not believe I actually would get. I also turn on Germany at the same time. The net result is I acquire Kiel and Rome as well as control of the Ionian Sea, while Turkey doesn't even retain fleets in Aegean or East Med. If only this weren't so close to the end of the time allotted, this positioning would make my solo all but certain. In the build phase, we all build things, but my builds don't matter much, because they're almost too far from the front lines to get into enemy dots at all. Austria does get 2 armies, so that at least helps them a bit. In spring 1909, I get into Venice and I support Turkey into Kiel as part of my plan to get Munich and Denmark. Unfortunately, at this point, Austria destroys the unit that Turkey forced to retreat from Bulgaria, which was apparently the condition Turkey had given Austria for resuming trust and cooperation. So in fall 1909, Turkey turns on me, taking Venice and denying me access to 3 of the centers I had expected him to support or allow me into: Greece, Smyrna, and Munich. I still took Naples and Denmark as planned, but the game ends with us in this position, with me at 15 centers instead of the 18 or 19 I might have gained. The only happy result of this betrayal from my perspective is that Germany survived. He played well, and he deserved to live. A fun game, and one that showed the potency that a Janissary can have when you gain the assured support of a scorned player. If only I could have demonstrated that to its full efficacy. Hopefully next time. My thanks go out to the names on screen now. You too can join the Florida Man production team by volunteering to write subtitles for my videos in other languages, or by joining my Patreon for a few dollars a month. For more exclusive Florida Man content, check out my Patreon or my blog. And until next time, Florida Man, out.